Hey everybody, my next guest is a 25-year radio veteran who is an on-air personality and program director for 94.3 The Shark, where he continues to represent everything that rocks. Here he is, folks, the one and only Rob Rush. Rob, what's up, man?
What's going on, Don? Thanks for having me on tonight.
Dude, man, I'm stoked that you're on, man, because I love what you're doing over there at the station. It's
Thank
I
you.
love 94.3 the Shark, but what I love too is that it's playing the music that I love, man. It's
I
you
also
know
see a shark in the background over there too.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I'm
Mhm.
really representing.
Yes. Look at you. Yo.
I was made
But
for
thank you.
this. Yeah. No, it's awesome, man. I love the kind of a lot of the music that you guys play on there. It's all the rock from the basically '90s and into the 2000s grunge era, and to
Mhm.
me, it's one of the best eras. And maybe I'm biased. I mean, I came up really. I'm 53. I came up really through like my high school era was kind of like hair metal, that sort of
I
thing,
was gonna
Motley
say
Crue.
Guns N' Roses and probably all that stuff, right?
Yeah,
Poison, Bon Jovi, yeah.
exactly.
Twisted Sister.
But my coming of age kind of stuff after high school, it was grunge, man. And when Nirvana hit and Pearl Jam and those types of bands, Alice in Chains, all kind of really spoke to me. So, getting for you to get involved in the Shark, was that sort of the same kind of thing? Was this did the music lure you in, or did you it was just how did you get into the Shark working over there?
Well, I started, I can't believe this year is going to be 30 years. I started
Wow.
college in 95. Yeah, in October of 95. And I started Nassau Community College and I went to the radio station there. Not that I really wanted to do anything, but I just wanted to try it out. I used to pretend I was a DJ sometimes, in front of my BS microphone that didn't work. So I went there and I auditioned and I got on, and just the real short synopsis is through that point. I was on WHPC, which is still there, 90.3, and they have a great program still to this day. Sean Novat runs it and does a great job still. Took over maybe about 7, 8 years ago from Jim Green, who was my med professor,
Right, right.
or just the running of the radio station. So from there, I got an internship at WLIR. So professionally, I started at WLIR in October of 1998. And the reason why I'm at the Shark is because in January of 2004, the old owners of WLIR sold it to Univision. So that was a little impetus for me to have to get out there because I didn't know if they were going to keep me or not. So luckily, Sean Lynch, who is the production director where I'm at now, Connoisseur Media, he was able to pull some strings and got me in. And I started at 94.3 in December of '03. And it wasn't even the Shark. It wasn't the Shark until September of 2012. So it was all these different formats. It was called Island 94.3, 94.3 WMJC, and it was 94X, and then it became the Shark. So, but that is my favorite type of music, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
man.
I have such a blast. I can't even really say that it's work, really can't.
Yeah, man. I mean, when you do what you love and you just rocking out and I love radio. I also kind of tried to be in radio back in the day, man. I was WSB in Stony Brook back in the day,
Mhm.
and in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
late '90s had a morning show there. Um, I was like heavily inspired. Like I thought my career would be kind of like yours. Like you pretty much were always in radio, right? Like you never had a different day job. It was always radio
Uh,
from college
yeah,
on.
basically in college I got in, and then I had a couple other little jobs, but basically since like '96, yeah, it was just radio, whether it was interning or then getting jobs at the college radio station. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the life I wanted for sure. I was heavily inspired like by at that time period. I always loved regular rock jocks that spun music, but I was really into Howard Stern and
Yeah.
Opie and Anthony and those types of guys, and that's the direction at that time period. You gotta remember this is like early '90s. In
Hmm.
who were some of your influences coming up? Were those guys part of your vernacular, or were you kind of more into like the rock jock type guys and like Bob Buckmans of the world, or like who pushed you? Like who was your guy?
It's funny. Like I never really listened to Howard that much because I was never up that early. After I got, it was high school, and I would go and my parents were the ones that would drive, so I didn't really listen to even Bob and all those guys. It was like I said, whoever was driving the car. My father was a big CBS FM fan back
Ah,
then when they played oldies and doo-wops. So the guy that really helped me out, and we became really, really good friends. And sadly, he passed away in July of 2022. Was Don K. Reed. He used to host a show on CBS FM called The Doo Wop Shop.
CBS FM, Bruce Springsteen, that's Born to Run. Not only born to run, but born to sing. 28 and a half past 10, and you're with me, Don K. Reed, here at Solid Gold Radio in New York. From their smash TV show to Broadway's Beacon Theater, it's Sha-Na-Na.
So he took me under his wing, and I know he lived in my neighborhood. He lived in the same town I grew up in, and went over. I was going to go over to his house, but I was like, it's not the right move. So I sent a letter, old school letter. This was '95, so right before the internet boomed.
right,
Um,
right.
and he called my house a couple times, and I remember his first thing Don says is, "Hey Rob, it's Don K. Reed." He had that unmistakable voice, and he goes, "Your mom says you want to get into radio." I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Get out while you still can." And we would always joke even up until right before he passed, that I should have taken your advice, Don.
If somebody said to me, how do you make it work on the radio? I really couldn't answer that. I really don't know how it works, but it does. I'm lucky.
Right.
I think it's an indefinable something that people have.
I remember when I first was on, I think I was trying to replicate it a little too much. And me and you had him on your show a couple years back, Mark Mendoza. We call it the boss jock, where it's like, "Hey, what's going on? All right, yeah, we're
Right,
gonna." It's
right.
like
Yeah.
somebody told me, just be yourself and sound natural, and everything will fall into place. And it's the truth.
I'm the guy you hear on the radio. I think you have to be the person that people listen to or see, as they do in television, because if you're a phony, they know.
Yeah.
I mean, it can be picked up. It really can. If you're you're an honest individual, and I think people pick up on that. It works.
Hey,
Yeah,
you got a great voice for sure. Yeah,
the face for radio.
yeah. But
There you
some
go.
guys don't have to put it on like you. You have the natural voice. You have the golden vocals, man. Some guys have to be like, "Hey, everybody, welcome to CBS FM," and
Yeah,
all that.
oh, what's going on? I'm with Don Still right now. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
all that stuff.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It was like that scene in Wayne's World. Was it Wayne's World 2? And they were on, and the DJ, I think Harry Shearer was the guy. Uh-huh, uh-huh,
yeah.
uh-huh. Yeah.
Talking about Wayne Stock, very exciting, big event. Everybody's excited, huh?
Yeah, it's going to be a big concert at Adlai Stevenson Park.
Uh-huh.
It's just going to be a big party, We got some great bands coming.
Uh-huh.
Like Aerosmith?
Uh-huh.
I just want to remind everybody that there's still plenty of tickets left.
Uh-huh.
But that's no reason to wait till the last minute.
Uh-huh.
You're not paying attention to me, are you? You're not hearing a word I say. Yeah. Now, luckily, I didn't have to really put it. The only time people will say like, "Oh, you sound different," is I do a lot of voiceovers, so I have to change. I had to learn how to lose the accent in a way, but only really for voiceovers. They don't want you saying if a car is for lease for $444. They don't want you to say lease it for 444.
Yeah.
So,
Dude, that was one thing I learned when I was trying after WSB. I was really trying. I was there for 4 years, just doing the morning show there, and then this is again in the late '90s, and I was trying to make a play. So I went to WBAB, just walked in cold, and they brought me in, sat me down. Like I don't know what the heck happened. It was like all of a sudden I'm in the conference room, and they started asking me all these questions, and then the guy just, I guess, I don't know, but he was like, first thing, you got to lose that accent. You got, I know we're on Long Island, but you can't sound like, because at the time too, my accent was real thick especially when I was younger.
yeah,
So
I
yeah,
think
so I know
most of us probably were.
yeah. So it's weird how it kind of goes, like you could put it like down a little bit, like that. The accent, you can, control it if you're thinking
Yeah.
about it. Yeah.
Some people, they take classes and they pay a lot of money. I didn't. I took one class at Nassau Community College called Voice and Diction, and basically the gist of what I got out of it is basically sound like a snob. And I learned that New York is a lot of AW sound, so it's for party, I remember my grandparents, coming from an Italian background. It wasn't the toilet; it was the toilet, or not
Yeah.
bottle; it was bottle.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's a lot of this like influx on the AW sound. It's very similar to Boston if you really think about it. It's that East Coast kind of thing.
I feel like most accents, it's that A W the O's. It's always
Yeah,
that's where all the differences always are. Like it's we'll say water, the water, water,
yeah.
and we're like
And the
water.
D's too. For some reason, TH gets replaced by D. This, that, those, there. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, exactly.
so I had
Yeah,
to learn how to make sure I'm not going over there. I'm going over there.
I knew this actor um, who's trained to lose his New York accent. He's from Brooklyn, trained to be a
That
serious
must have been
actor.
hard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he lost it, and then the first job he got, they wanted him to have the New York accent. That's the
Oh,
irony.
really?
They wanted him to be a New Yorker and have the accent. So he's like, I did all this, and you still.
That wasn't the guy from The Sopranos, was it? Al Sapienza, because he has a similar story like that too.
This was um this was the dude from I forget his name, but it was the show. Oh man, what was it? You had 90210, and then you had the other place where they lived in the apartment. What was that one?
Oh, Melrose Place. Yeah,
Melrose Place. It was the guy in
yeah.
Melrose Place, the actor. I remember him in
Oh,
an interview saying that. Yes.
And so I ended up doing Oberon, and I took a crash course to get rid of my New York accent.
But you did it.
Yeah, to some degree, I'm sure. I don't know if it was perfect, but we don't have that on tape, so I can't tell you.
so I was listening to one of the podcasts with Steve Sharippa and Michael Imperioli about The Sopranos, and I just remember him saying, it took him a long time. Al Sapienza, who played Mikey Palmisi, and it took him a long time to get rid of that accent. Then he comes back and it's like, now you got to do this accent. He's like,
I paid this woman in LA for 4 years for me to learn how to speak without any kind of New York accent and have the middle bullshit. So when I got that job, I knew I was going to work the rest of my life, and it legitimized me within the industry.
It probably, yeah, it probably happened to a lot of them because like I lived in North Carolina for 12 years and I did a little acting. I started doing, little indie films, nothing major. I was in a couple local commercials and stuff. But dude, every movie, and I'm not Italian. I guess I'm New
yeah,
York, right?
yeah, yeah.
But I might as well be Italian when I'm there. So I was in so many mob movies where I'm the, hey, what are you doing? So
Hmm.
typecasting is real, but the New York thing definitely played in my favor, especially down south when I was there.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, stop complaining. Just say it.
All right. Trash, coffee, dog, broad, garbage, bagel, dad, asshole, jerk off, bath, water, call. I can't see those last four. Talk, New York, car, go around the corner.
To your point, when you're doing voiceovers and you're doing like a
Yeah,
commercial or something like that, or you're working with the Mets
yeah, yeah.
you know,
I don't want to make sure yeah, the Mets is different. It's a lot of less. It's less, but it's more. When I do that stuff, you're announcing the players. The hardest thing to do is making sure you get the pronunciations of the players right. And then it's gotten much easier. But when I first started doing that, like in 2004, they made you do everything. They announce the batter, and then you're reading all the script in between innings, and you still got to keep the eye on the clock because you only have a minute and a half, and then who's coming up next. It was very very not frustrating, but it was very nerve wracking. And now it's changed as much. I don't do it as much as I used to because they have Colin and Marisol, but when they need me, I go in there every once in a while.
yeah, that's cool. I when I was in North Carolina, I worked with the Carolina Mudcats and we sat next to the announcers and all that and queued them up and things. And
Yeah.
it is tough because, especially in baseball, it's similar to hockey too. With the last names could be, it's not Jim Jones. It's not that. It's
Yeah.
it's like these
Yeah.
long ethnic names that might not just roll
Hmm.
off the tongue if you don't know it. So you got to like sound them out, like have them written out. I forget
Yeah.
what they
Oh,
call
yeah.
it.
And you also got to know when you can't do anything. I remember my buddy Alex Anthony. He was the old PA announcer of the Mets. Now he does the Islanders and the Jets. And this was years ago, maybe 6, 7 years ago, before the pandemic. Somebody from the Islanders called me up and they were like, "Hey, Alex said we can call you. He is sick tonight. We need a PA announcer. Can you do it?" And A, I'm not the biggest hockey fan, and B, I wouldn't know any of the names to pronounce because a lot of them are, these long Canadian, French sounding names, Russian names. And I just said to whoever was on the phone, I was like, "Hey, I'm going to save myself embarrassment and you embarrassment. I unfortunately am going to have to decline. Like you have to know when to say. I didn't want to embarrass it and make a fool out of myself or the team, so I had to say no. And
Yeah, not
ironically, they never called me back. So
but I think that says a lot about your professionalism. Sometimes you have to know when to say no. Like know when, okay, I'm walking down a road here
yeah,
that I'm not maybe not prepared for or not really, A, I'm not like you said, you're not a hockey fan, may not
yeah,
be
yeah.
the where the world you want to get involved in the first place.
Hmm.
And B, if you're going in because they can, especially now, obviously social media and stuff. Did you hear the way that guy pronounced this and that? And
Oh yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah, yeah. I didn't even think about that, but yeah, I was just thinking, in terms, like you said, being professional and not wanting to, embarrass not only myself but make the team look, bad. And then, I mean, because you can mess something up and it could affect the game. Like I don't know if there was like, if I said the wrong penalty or the wrong this, it could potentially affect the game.
did
Yeah.
you ever do any? Because I know you mentioned Colin Cosell, the great Howard
Hmm.
Cosell's grandson. I work with him a little bit at the Riptide, which the New York
Yeah.
Riptide. Over,
Great
um,
guy. Great guy.
super cool dude.
Yeah.
When I know he's more buttoned up with the Mets, but he was able to let loose a little bit with the Riptide. I don't know if he came to any of those games, but he would
I
just,
never was able to go to a game. Yeah.
because I wonder how you would enjoy that, just kind of being loose and just calling it, like literally watching the game with the microphone in hand, going, "Hey, everybody, look at this guy," and just making fun of the other
He
team. And
told me that he was encouraged to make fun of the other team. I remember him saying, he's like, I couldn't believe it. They said, you can have poke fun at the other team, and I guess he did because he enjoyed it, and I know I heard good things about it. So
yeah,
he's a good guy.
yeah, he was a cool dude. Shout out to Colin if he's watching this.
For the home team, it's just giving it that oomph, I guess. As I said, for the center fielder, Brandon Nimmo, and it's just like boom, trying to hit you right in the face with the player's name. But if it's for the Yankees, I'll say that guy Aaron Judge. Put a little spin on it.
With the music stuff and being involved, in the music world like that, I know you get to interview a lot of great bands, a lot of legends. Like you talked
Yeah.
about, I got to interview, Mark Mendoza.
Hmm.
Shout out to Mark. I know you and Mark are working on some stuff with Billy Mira.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
so what's some of the through the years, your 30 years of doing this? What's some of the highlights, like some of the pinch yourself moments where you look back and you're like, wow, man, I can't believe
I want to pinch myself in a bad way after you're saying over 30 years doing this. Wow. Highlights. Let's see. I'm very fortunate because not only am I on the Shark, we also have a sister station, WHLI, which is an oldie station.
From the heart of Nassau County, the hits of a lifetime. Connoisseur Media's 1100 WHLI and W284DG Hempstead.
And it plays like the old music that the old CBS FM did. So it's 50s, cool. 60s, 70s, and going into the early 80s, like with some of the yacht rock and stuff like that. So I've interviewed so many different people. One of the highlights would probably be Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys.
Wow,
I got
yeah.
to interview him. Very short interview because he was, very short in his answers. He wasn't the easiest interview. But I look back, I got interviewed 3 out of 5 of the Beach Boys: Mike Love, Brian Wilson, Al Jardine.
Wow.
I got to interview Barry Manilow.
Wow.
I got to become friendly with a lot of people I never thought I would become friendly with, like Brett Michaels, Andrew Dice Clay.
Yeah.
We you don't realize that when you're a kid, these are people that you see on TV or you hear them, and then one day you kind of like hanging out with them and in the same social circles. It's very humbling for me. Some people would take it differently, but I always remember just to keep my head grounded and not have an ego in any way, shape, or form. Everybody has an ego to a certain extent, but not to be like mean or hurtful to anybody, intentionally.
Right. And that's what I always say too, like, working in this business for a long time. I think when it gets old or when it's not cool anymore to you, that's when you got to get out of it. Because to me, it's still cool.
Yeah.
Every single, like talking to you right now is cool. Like,
I'm having fun, man.
Yeah, man. So every time you get to do these things, it's always cool. And I could imagine now, I don't know if Brian Wilson was in person in studio or was he a phoner?
That was over the phone. I mean, in person, I mean, I got to interview I don't know because I can get the guitar if I really wanted to. I can move it over. But I
Oh,
got to
nice.
interview. Well, I'm a big Bruce Springsteen fan, so I got to interview Little Steve. Bruce signed it, but I think you can see Little Steven was here. Where is it? Right
Oh,
there.
yeah,
Yeah.
there it is.
So
Dude,
I
that's
got to
freaking.
interview him in the Paramount because we have a studio there at the Paramount. So he came down, and that was really cool for me. I got to meet Clarence Clemens. That was really cool for me because I'm a huge
Yeah,
Springsteen
man.
guy. But yeah, it's Wolfgang Van Halen. It's you're kind of mixing with royalty, and he couldn't be cooler, man. I joked around with him because we did it a few times. We interviewed each other, or I interviewed him, and I say, man, I would never want to mess with you on the internet because he takes those trolls that'll be like, "Why don't you do Van Halen songs?" and he really puts them in their place. He doesn't take any guff from anybody.
Really, it's just if somebody makes a dumb enough, if somebody says something stupid enough, that's easy to make fun of.
I mean,
in a fun way, like when some guy was mad at me for having my name.
I know,
like
I saw
that's
that.
dumb enough where it's like, okay, yeah, I can make fun of that. But yeah, it's unfortunate that that social media as a whole seems to thrive on cynicism and negativity, and that usually a lot of positivity doesn't get out too much because the algorithm is kind of tuned for that.
So I respect him for that.
Yeah, man. He's got that fire from his family, and he's also young enough to be savvy on the socials, and he's just going at
Yeah.
it. That's super cool, man.
Yeah, so that was really cool. Yeah, I've had a lot of pinch me moments, like you said. Yeah, so that would be one, the Steven Van Zandt, and just that I get to do this every day, and still have some relevance, I guess, in doing it every day. Because I worry about the state of radio, like you said, as we move more and more into the future. Everything's so instantaneous. Um, I kind of I like it, that you can have Spotify and you can have Apple Music and you can stream it. But I always say to people, it's important to stay with local radio because you can't win concert tickets on Spotify or off Apple Music. You can't win, gift certificates to a restaurant, or you can't know about a local restaurant, unless you're tuned into local radio. Yeah, you can hear spots on them, but local radio is still where it's at, terrestrial radio, whatever you want to call it.
I agree, man. I think obviously I'm a huge fan of radio, but I am a big proponent for local radio, and that's all I listen to is local radio. I don't really listen to too much of like Sirius or any of those types of things. I like to keep my pulse locally because you do hear certain local things that's going on, like you said, like shows and things like that, like what's happening, like Mulcahy's or wherever.
Yeah,
And
we actually got a cool show coming to Mulcahy's too on March 27th. Story of a Song. John Hampson in 9 Days, Robin Wilson and Jim Blossoms, Brian from the Verve Pipe, and Vinny Dombrowski of Sponge. John actually came up with the idea, and he approached me and the guy that does mornings for us, Orlando. He said, "I got this great idea, do a roundtable." So, we're going to do it. And now it's an acoustic show. It's March 27th. Tickets are only $20. You get them at
Dude.
943theshark.com. And it's going to be fun, and again, you can't really get that, until AI can, formulate it on its own to do that. You're not going to get the singers to come to you and say, "Hey, that's a great idea. Let's put this on together." And it'll be cool to see John back at Mulcahy's. I mean, if you're a Long Island guy, you remember him as,
Yeah,
9 Days and Wonderama playing at Mulcahy's,
dude.
So.
When I was writing, I used to write for Good Times Magazine, then I just started working for Circus Magazine and Alternative Press and all
Oh,
that.
wow.
But when I was with Good Times was when This Is a Story of a Girl, when that
Yeah,
first
2000.
popped, and that was huge. That was
Yeah.
like the biggest song, and being local guy,
Yeah.
9 Days, it was the coolest thing. And then I interviewed him at what the heck was the name of that place? It was in Huntington, the Village Pub or something.
Yeah, I think there was a Village Pub there. I mean, I don't remember. The only thing I remember in Huntington before the Paramount was my first show was seeing Life of Agony there. I was 17 at the Roxy.
Dude, that's a good show. Long
Yeah,
Island
yeah.
Legends, hardcore. Yeah, man.
Yeah, and Joey's a great guy. I love Joey Z. Joey Zantel is awesome.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
But
dude.
yeah, I think it was the Village Idiot or Village Pub or something like that in Huntington.
Yeah, and that's when I seen them play, got to interview the band. John Hampson was super cool. Always left a good impression with me, and yeah, so I'm happy to see he's still out doing this thing, rocking it. I think everyone should go out to Mulcahy's and check out that show, March
Yeah, it's gonna be
27th.
fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome, man.
And for tickets to be $20, that is like going back to the '90s too. So
Yeah, exactly. It's like a whole flashback to the good old days.
yeah, exactly.
And then again, that takes us back to the Shark. With speaking of the good old days, with the music of that was going on then, and it's interesting to see a lot of these bands are still doing this. Like when you look at, because I was
Yeah.
covering in the late '90s, early 2000s, I was covering the new metal scene and the emo kind of scene. So there's a lot of emo bands definitely
Mhm.
popping in Long Island at the time, and
Yeah.
like Taking Back Sunday, Brand New, all those types of bands that were coming up.
Mhm.
But I like to see now, like Linkin Park is kind of gotten it back together again with Emily Armstrong. I want to know
Yeah, yeah.
what's your thoughts on the new Linkin Park and some of these other bands that has kind of stood the test of time through that era of
I saw them at the Barclays Center when they had that pop-up show in September, and she nailed it. I think she was a little nervous. I mean, it was only like her second show, and it was just thrown together, not thrown together like that. It was a months long process, but to the general public, it was just seemed like it was an overnight thing. Even though they had been practicing for months, she was great. I think she sounds good, carrying on the legacy. And you brought up a point where a lot of these bands are still doing it. We're the only rock station on Long Island that'll still play new rock, and to have bands like just within the last 3 years or 2 years, the Foo Fighters have a new album. Pearl Jam were up for a Grammy
yeah.
the other night at the Grammy Awards for their new album, Dark Matter. You have all these bands that are coming out with new material. It's escaping me right now, but I'm trying to remember like some of the stuff they were playing. The Foo Fighters, Pearl Jam. Who else did we just release some new material they're coming out with? Linkin Park.
Yeah.
Of course, they just came out with their new album. So all these heritage bands, what we're calling them, they're still coming out with music, and it's still good music. It says a lot about rock and stuff, and hard rock and heavy metal.
I think it's cool
Black
too.
Agony.
Yeah, and I think it's cool when you see a resurgence of some of the songs. Like a couple of years ago, the Wheatus Teenage Dirtbag song became a viral
Yeah,
sensation
yeah, it was
all
on
over.
TikTok or something like that.
Yeah, it became like a
Yeah,
hit. Like where my kids were loving it, and I'm like, really? How do you know this song? But it was
yeah,
like, yeah. So I like to see that. I like seeing bands like even the Fuzz Bubble kind of getting back together, and they were torn with Zebra a little bit, and it's just cool to see the Long Island scene, kind of getting its legs and still
yeah.
moving.
Yeah, and the concerts too, like Creed, they sold out the Garden. They're coming back to this area. Daughtry's kind of reinvented himself, Chris Daughtry into the rock scene, and Pearl Jam. All these, like I said, heritage bands that are still coming around and still holding it down and doing really good and playing venues where they're, if not sold out, next to sold out. I think is a good thing for rock in moving forward in that kind of genre.
Yeah, because like you said too, man, like watching the Grammys. I don't really watch the Grammys, but I watch
Yeah,
like
I got to admit, I didn't watch it either. Yeah.
I saw some of the highlights, YouTube or whatever. But I really would love to see rock music kind of be back in control of the pop culture, because I think what pop music has become now, I just don't get. Maybe it's because I'm older. I guess not. I just
It's
don't.
possible. Yeah.
Yeah, where I just like bring back rock, please.
I
Like,
just think, when they say alternative, like, and you hear like these alternative bands now, it sounds like pop music to me. And, I'm still thinking alternative, like, not Metallica, I'm sorry, Bush and Pearl Jam and Nirvana and Soundgarden and all that. That's alternative to
right?
me.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
new alternative sounds like, poppy kind of stuff, like that you would consider like pop music back in the 90s. But then again, maybe we're just getting older. Who knows?
Well, maybe they've gone so weird that that is alternative to these audience.
It's possible. Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah, man. But I went to a show uh not too long ago. I was in Cleveland. I went to House of Blues, and I saw the show called the 68. Do you know this band? You should check
No.
these guys out. I think they're based out of Atlanta. It's a two-piece band. It's a guy who sings and rocks out on guitar, and then this drummer who's like insane. And dude, it is hard rock and rock. And to me, I'm like, this might be the sound that could maybe break into
Break it out, yeah.
mainstream and
Are they like the Black Keys if they're a duo? That kind of sound, like the White Stripes, the Black Keys.
they're similar to that, but they're a little heavier, a little more punk rock, a little bit more edge to those guys. A lot of like there's the screams.
Thank you.
Yeah, you got to check them out if you get a chance. It's called the 68. And then
check it out.
Yeah, the headliner was this band called Bad Flower, which are
Oh,
also
Bad Flower, they're great. Yeah, they're a great band. Yeah,
dude.
we play some of their stuff on the Shark.
Nice, man. Yeah, those guys, man, they blew me away. It was the first time I heard of them. So I was there with my son. We were in Cleveland because we went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and then we're like, let's go to a rock show. So we just randomly went to House of Blues. I never even heard of Bad Flower at the time.
Yeah, we were playing a song called Detroit recently by them. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, they rock, man. I was
Good
blown
band.
away, and that's when I said to myself, because I was like, if you saw the Mark Mendoza interview, one of the first things I asked him is rock dead, and he got very defensive. No, it's not dead. What are you talking about? And he's
What are you
right.
talking about? It's not dead. Yeah, no, not dead. I'm gonna smack you for saying that.
Yeah, I'm gonna smack you for saying that. Don't ever say that again. He's like, I sell out shows all over the world. I'm like, all right, man. I'm not saying that it's completely dead. I'm just saying like it's not in the mainstream. Like,
yeah,
and
it's kind of underground again, which I guess makes it for lack of a better term, punk again.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Makes it more like if you know type of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
I think one of the conditions to judge some of this stuff by is before we had COVID. The summer before, if you look at the attendance at all the monster festivals around the world, they're all at maximum capacity. So if you look at that and you can't count the last year or so, everything's doing just fine.
But Mark, he's a trip, man. We're doing this new show on Sunday nights, me, him, and Billy, called A Rock in a Hard Place, 7 to 9 p.m. on the Shark. And we had 2 shows under our belt so far. We had Carmine a piece on the first show to talk about. We did a tribute to John Sykes because Carmine and John played in a band called Blue Murder. So we got in touch with Carmine. And then last week we had Kofi Baker on, who's Ginger Baker's son. They're playing a show at the Patchogue Theater, Sons of Cream, on February 16th. So I kind of liken it to, if you like hard rock, heavy metal, and just interesting content, that's what we do. We play like a couple of tracks off an album that's turning a certain number of years old. We do a thing called Dish It Out, where we talk about a topic like, last week was, best rock trios. You can go off on tangents with that.
Yeah.
I said, one of the first ones with Buddy Holly and the Crickets, and then he added a fourth person. So, yeah. I don't know what we're doing. We're not on
Rush. Was Rush on
Rush
there?
was definitely in there. Cream,
Police. Oh yeah, Cream.
Police, Nirvana, Green Day.
Yeah.
Stray Cats. We were talking about the Stray Cats.
Dude, Long Island. Yeah.
We're gonna rock this town, rock it inside out. We're gonna rock this town, make them scream and shout.
So we're not going to be on for the 9th because that's the Super Bowl, but we'll be back on the 16th. We'll have to figure something out then. But yeah, it's a cool show.
Dude,
I'm hopeful that it has legs and it'll grow through the year. And
I think so, because I seen you 3 on podcasts before together. It was you, Billy Mira, and Mark, just doing your thing. And I think a good thing. There's a lot of good things about having Mark Mendoza on your side. He's just such a great dude. Shout out to Mark Mendoza, Twisted Sister, Long Island royalty, and rock and roll. And Mark, man, not only tackled the hair era of heavy metal, but also punk rock, early punk rock era. Yeah, Dictators. Yeah. But what's cool about having him on your side in a show like this is it makes it a lot easier to get these kind of legend guests. Like, oh yeah, you want the guy from the Scorpions? I'll get him on here tomorrow.
Yeah, well, that's the point. Like, of this show, we use. I don't want to say we use Mark, but Mark is like the anchor. So it's like, whereas maybe some guests might not want to come on because they've done it before, or they just think it's another radio interview. Mark is kind of like the guy where it's like, these are cool guys. We're not going to try to say anything bad about you or get that sexy headline. We're here just to have fun and to talk sincerely about what it is that you're doing, if you have anything new promoting. And so, yeah, we're looking forward to that. And Billy's like, very knowledgeable as well. He's a musician. He's funny. He does impressions. So all three of us together, I think it's going to be something good.
Yeah, man. Shout out Billy Mira also, man. I don't know him, but I've met him, hung out with him one night at Governor's with he was with Sal, Governor Alley over there, and we were just hanging out. Super cool dude. He's got a great singing voice too, and like you say, he's
Billy, yeah,
funny. Yeah, yeah. Billy
and
rocks, man.
Sal's a great guy. So shout out to Sal. I love you, Paisan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True indeed, man. No, so that's cool. So that's going to be Sunday nights. What do you say, from 7 to 9?
7 to 9. Yeah, it's we already did a couple of shows. Like I said, we're not going to be on February 9th because of the Super Bowl, but back on the 16th and every Sunday thereafter.
Super cool, man.
Yeah, thank
So
you.
with your all the things you have going on in your day-to-day life, what kind of motivates you to wake up every day and to get to work, and what's the motive, what gets you out of bed?
It's never, it's always different every day. So it's almost like you're waking up and you're not knowing what to expect. It's not like going into a job where you're, crunching numbers or you're setting up, in policies, and stuff like that, where it's kind of monotonous. Every day is different, and I just have a zest for what I do. I love what I do. I try not to let it define me because I've seen people that do let it define them, spiral into different, not, negative situations. But at the end of the day, after I leave, I just kind of look back and say, I'm glad at what I did. And I hope I can affect somebody's life positively, whether it's something I said on the air or maybe I played a song that nobody ever heard of. That's why we do these different things on the Shark Rev. Under the covers I do daily. It's a different cover song every day, about 3:30. We do deep cuts weekends, where we play, songs that you haven't heard on the radio in a long time or maybe ever on.
Right.
So, just to kind of, it's funny. I'm sitting here and we did the basement not that long ago. A buddy of mine already did it. And I'm looking and he's like putting all this stuff up and he's putting up the walls. And I'm like, he does like stuff that lasts. I said, I talk. That's all I do. What is, and then people will be like, no, you when they tell you what you do, you reach a chord. It's the human contact, which again can't be replaced by AI and all this stuff. It can mimic it, but I think that true human contact is what you get from watching, your favorite television program on news, your local news, like News 12 personality or Channel 2, 4, and especially with radio, you have, it's almost like they're your friends.
Exactly. And I think too, with the AI thing, I think that AI can do a lot of good as far as using as a tool, but
Yeah.
but somebody said, I want AI to do the dishes and the vacuuming and the housework while I create art. I don't want AI creating art while I'm doing the dishes and vacuuming and doing the
Yeah.
housework. So I think, and also to your point too about the human connection, that's where I think AI will always have AI beat in art, in the arts in
Yeah.
general, because
Yeah.
there's something special to having that, to having hearing you talking and telling us what's going on and hearing that, or if something goes down, you could hear the excitement in your voice if you're talking about a new band,
Mhm.
and all of that type of stuff. And then when if you're doing an interview, that also, is coming from a real place. It's genuine interest. It's not just running through a bunch of questions. It's,
Yeah. It's
yeah, which AI
like I
would
said, it's
probably,
real. Yeah.
yeah.
I always joke around on the air. I'm like, there was a movie that came out 40 years ago called The Terminator. You do realize that's about
Yeah.
AI, right? Didn't end so well for humanity. Unless John Connor comes and saves everybody.
And who knows, we may have had a couple John Connors, but we end up canceling them or something. The
Yeah, yeah,
society.
something like that. There was a few Terminator movies, and then they retconned everything back to Salvation or whatever it was, or
Yeah.
Genesis, or I don't even know. Yeah,
Yeah, but if there was like a real one, we would be like, "Oh, this guy's crazy," and they cancel
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yes, and we wouldn't ever believe him. I'm telling you, man, you got to stop this. This
The
is
conspiracy
insanity.
theorist.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. You're a conspiracy theorist.
yeah,
So it's just crazy in this world, man. I mean, like you said, you came up through the '90s, so you
yeah.
remember life before the internet.
Yeah, yeah.
And
And you kind of feel like, especially as we march on through time, 2025, you know, you look at kids that are, 25 years old this year, they're born in 2000. They don't remember, 9/11. They don't remember what it was like to go to a video store. And, I always like to tell like a kid, they'd be like, "Bro, I don't know how you had to leave the house." Yeah, we had to leave our house. We had to go to the store. If we wanted to get, Batman or Superman, and if it wasn't there, guess what? We didn't have it on demand. You had to get something else, Same thing with going to a record store. You can browse, and say, oh, if you like, this band, you may like this, and this. But I think, again, going back to the human connection, I remember going to Tower Records on Old Country Road in Carl Place, and going into different aisles, and if somebody's like, "Oh, do you know that band? Or you should check these guys out." It's that human connection.
exactly, exactly. Man, I miss those days, and I miss albums and records. Obviously they still exist. There's still the
It's kind
people.
of cool that vinyl's back again, but
Yeah,
like I
yeah.
went to a store to look at a couple of them. I was like, "Damn, $30 for a piece of for one record." You know, I remember when it was
Exactly.
like $10. Yeah, now it's like $30. It's pressed on, super special vinyl and all this stuff. Give me
It's
the
got to be
$10
something
record.
it's got to be something I really want nowadays because, like you said, it is easy to. I guess watch this on, I just listen to this on YouTube or whatever, or
Yeah,
Sirius or something like that. And but it does take away when you think of nostalgia. Just listening to an album, staring at the cover, reading the
yeah,
liner notes, all those
yeah,
sorts of things. But now, what's different is if a kid is interested in all of those types of things, he can see it all on his website or whatever. So it's just a different era. It's so weird, man. Like,
I overheard a conversation today at the radio station. Somebody was talking about how they think, and I hope to God he's right, that he thinks eventually, maybe within the next few years, a lot of kids are going to get tired of the instantaneous, I don't even know what the word I'm looking for is, but things that are so instant, and kind of go back to older methods of things, listening to the radio, or, just reading a book, a real book, not a digital book, and
right,
I hope
yeah,
he's right about that, because I think, that would kind of be cool, and maybe, bring some more peace into the world if you go back to old school style stuff.
yeah. I think so. Again, like it's hard for me to weigh in on it because I come from that old school, but like I only can read physical books. I can't like I
Yeah.
guess or I can listen to books, kind of. My mind will drift away.
Yeah. I mean, I don't mind the digital book, or like, because you're reading stuff on your phone most of the time, but it is nice to pick up a real book from time to time.
Yeah, I just like flipping pages, all the that kind of stuff. It puts me more in touch with the book because you know it's hard enough to get me to read in the first place.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. But I'm getting better at it. I'm
Yeah,
trying to do like one book a month if I can. I'm
there you go.
on the same book from last month, but we'll try. Maybe one book every other month. You know?
Yeah, I used to read like I would read a biography of whoever, and then I would try to read like I would call it like brain candy, like an Alex Cross book or something like that.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
a
yeah.
fun kind of easy read, flip page turner. And but yeah, so now I'm just kind of now that I'm getting older, I'm interested in boring stuff like like do you?
Gardening.
Yeah, I haven't gone there
Woodwork.
yet. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Spackling certain parts of the framing and everything. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Gardening's great. I'm actually I'm gonna go out and get a gardening book. That's a good
Yeah.
one.
See, there you go. Mr. Green Thumb. Yeah. Don Sill, the Green Thumb.
Yeah, there you go. Have you ever thought about writing a book?
No, honestly, I don't think I have. People, say that I should, but I don't know if anybody really is going to give a shit what I say, or anything like that. Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? It is kind of cool that I could drop the S bomb and not have to worry about, saying, something on the air, which is very hard too, you know, to make sure that you're always, minding your P's and Q's. But maybe that would be the name of the book, Mind Your P's and Q's.
There you go.
There you go. Yeah, I don't know. I
Well,
never thought about it. I mean, I think, I forget more than I probably remember. So I'd have to really sit down and try to, relive most of the stuff that I went through, which could be scary.
I know. I think sometimes when like I don't always look back at the road behind, but when you do, sometimes you're like, wow, like it starts to build up. You're like, whoa, man, I can't believe all these things I've done, and I think it might be. I've never done this either, but it might be cathartic to kind of put together a book of all the memoirs and all the things that you've done, and even if it never gets published, or if you self-publish it and nobody buys it, it's there for you. It exists in the world for
For
as a
whomever.
legacy.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a good way to look at it. Maybe I'll start it. Who knows?
There you
Figure it
go.
out.
Mind your P's and Q's. There you go.
Yeah, mind your P's and Q's. Maybe I'll just do an audiobook. It'll be easy. I'll just talk. Yeah.
I was also with one of the topics for you guys with Mendoza and all that. You should do because you still talk about the trios and all that. You should do
Yeah, yeah.
one.
It's a segment called Dish It Out where it's a different topic every week. But it could be anything. It could be, who do you think is the greatest, left-handed hitter of all time in baseball.
You should do one where it's live songs that that are recorded that are better than the recorded record
And the
album.
recorded version. The first one that comes to mind would be Cheap Trick, I Want You to Want Me.
That's
I don't know if you ever
definitely
heard the real version. It almost sounds like a country kind of song.
yeah. It's
Oh, the recorded version. Yeah.
the live version is so much better. And the second one, I would say off the top of my head, that was one of them. And the second one would be Kiss,
Rock and Roll All Night.
Rock and
Yeah.
Roll Night. That
Yeah.
one is way better than the recorded version too. It just has a different energy. Both of them do
Yeah.
have a different energy. But there are a couple more, I would bet. Yeah, that's just a
Yeah. I
cool.
don't know if Bob Seger turned the page. I don't know if that's a live track or if there was a recorded version. I think it's live. But I don't know if it was just live and he never had a studio version. I really never did the research on
All right, yeah, I gotta check on that
that.
too. If I
Yeah.
check on that, I'll let us all know now in the edit.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be cool. Yeah.
The other one was what covers are better than the originals. Do you have any of those off the top of your head? I don't even.
Sure. I mean, I would say right off the top, probably that, Jimi Hendrix All Along the Watchtower.
Dude,
Uh,
we're right. I was just about to say. I actually
that
writing down
one.
Watchtower. Yeah.
Yeah. What other covers would be better than the original? There's probably a lot. Joan Jett, I Love Rock and Roll.
Oh
That's
yeah.
a cover.
Quiet
Um,
Riot.
Quiet Riot, Come On Feel the Noise.
Yeah.
I don't know if Twisted Sister doing, Leader of the Pack is better than the original, but, Mark would probably say no. Mark would definitely say no.
He didn't like that one. Leader of the
Uh,
pack.
I don't know if he didn't like it. I don't think he was, too fond of it being a single.
Right.
But then again, if you get Mark on, he could probably tell you the truth.
Right. Yeah. No, that's awesome, man. I'm definitely gonna be checking you guys out. Like I said, I love the station. I love what you're doing. I appreciate
Thank
you
you.
coming
Thank you.
on here. Tell everybody where they could find you and follow you and all that good stuff, man.
Well, I'm on every day on the Shark, 94.3 on the FM dial if you're on Long Island. So it's 2 to 7, Monday to Friday, 94.3 The Shark or 943theshark.com online. There's an app if you have an iPhone or an Android phone, excuse me, you can download it. It's free. I also do, like I said, WHLI, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Monday to Friday. That's either 104.7 FM or 1100 AM, and it's WHLI.com. The show that Mark and I do with Billy, Sunday nights on the Shark, 7 to 9 p.m. And I guess on Instagram, I'm at Rob_Rush. Facebook, I think it's just Rob Rush. See my stupid face. Facebook profile picture.
Well, you're a busy dude, man. I appreciate you doing this, and it's March 27th. You'll be there for the story thing with John
Mulcahy's,
Hampson.
yes. Story of a Song. Yes, that's John Hampson in 9 Days, Robin Wilson, the Gym Blossoms, Brian Vander Ark of the Verve Pipe, and Vinny Dombrowski of Sponge. It's going to be all unplugged. It's going to be awesome, and it's going to be like a roundtable kind of discussion, which will be really cool.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I'm gonna try to make it out there, and if I do, I'll come say what's up.
Absolutely, man. Yes, definitely. I'll make sure Mark, doesn't bother you.
Doesn't choke me out.
Yeah, make sure Mark doesn't choke you. No, Mark, he's good. He can come. He can come. Yeah.
No, he's super cool. Good times. Thanks again, man, so much. I really appreciate you. Rob Rush,
I
everybody.
appreciate you. Thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
Excellent, man. You rock, dude.
Got my.